Well, for me, Samoa is one of the most frustrating teams in this year's Rugby World Cup, and in this video I'm going to do a summary of the game that just finished between Samoa and Japan. I'm going to tell you why Samoa frustrate me so much. Hello and welcome to Inside Rugby. My name's Mark. I'm a Kiwi rugby fan who's living in beautiful Cancun, Mexico. We've got a bit of rain around today, but all is good. It's still very hot, and I'm pretty hot after watching that game between Japan and Samoa. What a game it was, and a lot of frustration for me in this game. I don't know why, but I'm going to share it with you all in this video. In Toulouse, they're up against Japan and trying to make their way out of the pool stage. 23 tries scored in Toulouse so far during this Rugby World Cup, and I'm sure the crowd had come along to this game to expect a few more tries today between Japan and Samoa. Jaco Piper was the referee in this game, and in front of a packed house on a good day, or a good evening I should say, in Toulouse. We were looking forward to a pretty open game, and it was going to be a pretty intense game as well, as both teams needed a win to get through to the next stage of the Rugby World Cup, or at least have a chance to. We know that England are going to go through if Japan were to win this game today. So the game got underway, and just within 30 seconds the Samoans had a penalty inside their own half, about 55 metres out from the Japanese goal line, and Luella decided to have a go at goal, and I tell you what, he got very close. The ball just fell short of the post. So at that stage Samoa didn't go ahead, and Japan were able to clear the ball from their line. So it was a pretty intense start to the game, and both teams looked like they were going to go at it in Toulouse. So as I had thought at the beginning of this game, I thought the Samoan forwards were going to take it to Japan, and that's exactly what happened, and they really got a good roll on. In fact, there was a massive rolling maul from the Samoans heading down towards the Japanese goal line, and it was inevitable, I thought, that Samoa could score a try. But in stepped Christian Leali'ifano, and what did he do? He tried to put a little grubber kick through the defence where Samoa should have kept ball in hand and pushed the ball out wide for a potential try. But that gave Japan the ball back, of course, and they were able to clear that opportunity that Samoa had from their goal line. Now, coming into the game, I was very worried about Christian Leali'ifano because I don't like this guy. I'll be very upfront and blunt about it. I think his execution is very poor in all areas of his game, and I thought that he was going to be a liability in this game for Samoa. So there's my honest truth. That's what I think about the guy. Have watched his rugby over the years, and just don't think he's up to this level of play. And I think Samoa should have actually picked somebody else to come into this tournament in the number 10 jersey, because it is such an important role within a team. And Samoa's got so much talent in this team, but they need someone in there at 10 to really ignite this team, and actually game management is crucial, and I just don't think Leali'ifano is the right guy for that position. So that aside, the game moved on, and Samoa continued to get the ball. In fact, in the first 10 minutes of this game, they enjoyed 70% of the possession. Then Japan found themselves down in the Samoan 22 after a really good series and phases of play, and they really went on the attack, and it looked like Japan were going to come away with some points, but then they were penalised and Samoa had the opportunity to clear the ball. And that seems what happens with these teams at this level in World Rugby. They seem to have a very good phase of play, they go on the attack, and then their execution skills, all their game management decisions let them down, and they turn the ball over. The top tier teams in World Rugby, they take that opportunity when they're down in their opponent's 22 and they put points on the board. That didn't happen this time around for Japan. But just a couple of minutes later, in fact on the 13th minute, we saw Japan get possession of the ball, and Lemeki, their fullback, took a fantastic run downfield. He got through a couple of weak Samoan tackles, got back on the ball again after going down to the ground, and ran through, passed the ball back inside. The rolling maul got going, and Labuschagne for Japan went over for a great try, their first try in this game, and Japan went up by 5 points to 0. So a great try by Japan, and then their number 10 Matsuda came up to take the conversion. Now this guy has kicked 10 for 10 so far in the World Cup, 100% kicking record. So you probably want him as your guy coming up to kick this conversion, and he didn't disappoint. So Japan went out to 7 points to nil after just 13 minutes of this game. And then the flow of the game started going the other way towards Samoa, and they started pressing down into the Japanese territory, and a few decisions that were coming up for Samoa made me scratching my head a little bit. They got a penalty about 27 metres out for the line, and they chose to kick for touch, which is all very well, and they wanted to obviously try and score a try with their good rolling maul, as they have from lineouts. And they continued to make a couple of decisions around this, so they gave up the opportunity to put points on the board. They were down 7 points to nil, and as a group they decided to go for the kick for touch and see whether they could score a try. And they did this a couple of times. So after doing that twice and coming away with no points, they got a third opportunity. This time they were only about 18 metres out from the Japanese line, and then they made the decision to go for goal. So after 17 minutes or so, it was 7 points to 3. Luala got the kick over for Samoa, and some strange management decisions around what they're going to do with penalties inside the opposition half. Both teams were racking up the penalties at this stage, and the next one up was Japan having an opportunity for a kick for goal, and Matsuda obliged accordingly. He's not going to miss kicks at goal, is this guy. So Japan went out to 10 points to 3, and that was after 26 minutes of the game. Now what was starting to become disappointing for me in this game was Samoa obviously had an advantage at scrum time, but they weren't able to monopolise that advantage at all in their open field play, and they started making what I thought were really silly decisions when it came to opening up their backline. Now I think the Samoans have got some really good talent in their backline, but they need Liliafano at number 10 to be able to make the right decisions to get this backline away, and he just wasn't doing that. So we saw Samoa stumbling forward more than anything in this game and taking a lot of one-off hits in their forwards to try and create the width for their backs to operate, but their backs weren't given the good ball or the good opportunity. So it was a very disruptive kind of game for Samoa. They weren't able to get on a roll at this point in the game. And Japan are a very good counter-offensive team, I think, and they came back every time they got the ball. They were very intent on upping the pace of the game, spreading the ball wide when they earned it, and they were also taking the ball up in the forwards and taking Samoa on, particularly in the rolling mauls, and they were doing a very good job of that. And then on the 31st minute of this game, two things happened that I think started to change the course of this game. Japan went on to attack. They came out to the left-hand side. Matsuda threw a really good over-the-top pass right to the wing where Michael Leach was standing, and he ran in from about 10 yards out and scored a brilliant try for Japan at that stage. And then during that same period of play, Tawatini for the Samoan, the halfback from Samoa, did a cynical tackle on a player without the ball and was shown the yellow card. So not only did Samoa go down to 14 men at that stage, but they also had a try scored against them, a pivotal point in the first half of this game. So the brilliant try was scored by Leach in the corner. Matsuda had a difficult conversion attempt from the touchline, but hey, this guy doesn't miss, so he got up and kicked the goal, no problem at all. Japan out to 17 points to 3, and Samoa looked in disarray at this stage coming towards half time. Down to 14 men, none of their back play was making any sense as far as getting through the defence of the Japanese was concerned, and every time Japan got a turnover or an opportunity to attack Samoa, they brought the ball back into the Samoan territory and really had a good go at their line. They looked a lot more offensive, a lot more innovative in their backline play, and a lot more threatening. I think their accuracy was a lot better than what the Samoans were showing as well at this stage of the game. And then one of the things that happens in a lot of games with Japan, they get a bit of a lead on and they have trouble holding that momentum, and they allow the opposition back in the game, and that's what happened on this occasion. So Samoa got some emphasis going, they got some rolling mauls going towards the Japan line, and Sililia Lamb went over for a good try for Samoa in the 38th minute. It wasn't converted by Liliafano, and Samoa got back to 17 points to 8. So just before half time, Japan also got a yellow card. Hori for a high tackle. He went off just with about 3 or 4 minutes to go in the first half. So it brought both teams down to 14 men in that first half. Samoa down to 14 men, Japan doing 96 tackles in that first half and having 6 penalties against them, which was a very high count for them. They've been averaging only 6 penalties in their games, entire games so far in this year's Rugby World Cup, and to have 6 penalties in the first half just showed that they were under a little bit of pressure from the Samoa team, and their discipline was falling away. Jamie Joseph, the Japan head coach, would have gone into the sheds pretty happy at half-time with Japan, because Samoa looked directionless for me, and despite having the wealth of talent on the field, they weren't able to put together some comprehensive plays to be able to score points against this Japanese team. I thought Masuda played really well for Japan in that first half, and their forwards were very good as well, being led by Hermione, their captain. He's big, and of course he's had some experience in New Zealand playing for the Highlanders, and I think all that kind of experience these Japanese players get is very good for their international careers. Samoa, for me, Liliafano was the one that was causing the problems. His kicks for touch were not gaining too much distance for Samoa, and when you have a 10 you want to be gaining 40 or 50 meters with your kicks for touch. He was gaining about 20 meters only, and you could see every time he made a kick for touch he was disappointed in himself that he wasn't marching the Japanese forwards back further towards their own goal line. So a good half for Japan. I thought they looked pretty good in that first half. They took the opportunities that they were given by Samoa, and that's what counts in Rugby World Cup rugby, so they were doing a very good job there. So a couple of early momentum swings in the second half, and the first one was in the 42nd minute with that man that I've been giving a hard time, Christian Liliafano, did a really good 50-22 and put Samoa down into the attack. And it gave Samoa an opportunity to build some momentum in the beginning of the second half, but again the ball was turned over, Japan got the ball and they cleared it away from their own line, and then they started to build their own momentum back into this game. And this is something that Samoa were doing on a regular basis in this game. Whenever they got an opportunity to put momentum forward in the game, they handed it back to Japan with either a handling error, a penalty, or some other breakdown in play. Then a big moment in the 47th minute, Ben Lam, the winger for Samoa, did a high and reckless tackle on one of the opponents in the Japanese team. He ended up being yellow carded. About 6 minutes later it was upgraded to a red card, and Samoa would spend the rest of the game with 14 men. And really, again, we've talked about it, I guess, in every video I've made so far in this year's Rugby World Cup, how important discipline is. And I simply don't get it. Why are these guys trying to tackle guys around their shoulders and the neck? The quickest way to bring a guy to ground is to go around his waist and slide down and cut his legs out from under him. He's not going to run away from you then. But they insist on going in with these shoulder charges. They're going to have a high degree of risk, and they're going to slide up into the head, and that's exactly what happened in this occasion with Ben Lam. So I really think this is a technical training issue that we're seeing in this year's Rugby World Cup. Players are just simply not tackling properly, and for me the yellow card and the red card system is a waste of time. All it's doing, it's just highlighting that we've got high tackles continuing in the game. It's not actually stopping anybody from getting a head injury. We're just showing the highlights of people getting head injuries. So to me the whole thing needs to be reworked and rethought out, because it's simply not working for the high tackle situation. So yeah, disappointing from Samoa. Their discipline again around the tackle let them down to 14 men in the game. And then what happens? 2 minutes later, Japan score a great try. And it was a very good try by Japan. Their forwards got engaged, pushed Samoa back, and that man, Michael Leach, went in for his second try. This time, not out on the wing, he was playing his usual role inside the forwards and went over with his whole pack aside him. So Japan were out with 22 points to 8 with the conversion to come, and guess what? Matsuda, he missed it. So his first miss in the tournament as far as conversions go. So Japan was still out comfortably by 22 points to 8 at this time in the game. So 22 to 8 with 30 minutes to go, Samoa down to 14 men. Japan looked pretty comfortable, but it happens often in the game of rugby when a team is desperate and they've got their backs to the wall, they're down to 14 men, they start to pull something out of the fire. and we started to see Samoa getting a little bit of a run on. Some of their bench changes made a difference and just gave them a different looking structure for me when they started moving forward. Theo McFarlane, I don't know what to say about this guy. He's an absolute amazing rugby player for Samoa. He was all over the field in this game. He was fast in the breakdowns. He was out there in open play. He was winning ball in the line out, and an absolute amazing athlete. I don't know how big his engine is, but he was going the whole game long. And Stephen Lauatua had one of the best games I've watched him play for a while as well. So they were great players within the Samoan team doing their individual things, but collectively as a unit they were letting each other down every now and again, and their game management plan wasn't sound at all in this game as far as I was concerned. So 57 minutes down, and an opportunity for Japan again with a penalty 47 meters out from the Samoan line, and our friend Matsuda stood up and took another direct hit at goal and pushed Japan out to 25 points to 8. And there was a big gap now between these two teams, and Japan were hunting for that bonus point. They wanted to get a bonus point to help them in this tight. So as we went into the last 20 minutes of the game, it seemed to me that the high tackle count Japan had to put in that first half started to tell, and they started to fall off some of the Samoan plays. And on the 64th minute, Samoa finally broke through the line, and Duncan Paea, the fullback from Samoa, went over for a good try for Samoa, and it was game on again. They were back in this game, and more importantly, it gave Samoa some self-belief, and that is something that I'd seen them missing throughout this whole game. Even when they ran on the field in the beginning of this game, I just felt that Japan were more up for this than the Samoan team. But at the 64th minute mark, where they did score this try, I saw them get some conviction back in their eyes, and I thought, okay, they might have a chance to get back into this game. Christian Liliafano got the conversion over, 25 points to 15 it was, and we went into the last 15 minutes with the game on situation. And just as we entered that last 15 minutes, Japan got an awesome set of phases put together, had a rolling run down the field that gained them 70 metres, got very close to scoring a try, a couple of good breaks from their wings, and they were right back on the hunt in Samoan territory again. Japan kept the pressure on for the next few minutes, and at the 74th minute mark they got a penalty kick opportunity. Matsuda stepped up and put it over again, and they went out to 28-15. So just with 6 minutes left to play, it was up to Samoa to start throwing the ball around and really chase this game, and that's exactly what they did. From every opportunity they had, they started playing like they should have started playing from the first minute, and that's what frustrates me so much about the Samoan team. Why does it take for them to get down to 14 men, their backs against the wall, they're going to look like they're being knocked out of the Rugby World Cup, and then they start playing some really good rugby and they start using some constructive plays in this game? So that's why I get really frustrated with this Samoan team, and that comes down to a coaching issue and also players' choices when they're on the field. And then around the 76th minute, Christian Liliafano gave me an opportunity to give him a bit of a hard time. If you remember the game, or if you didn't remember the game, what happened was that Samoa got an opportunity through a penalty kick for touch to get very close to the Japanese line. Liliafano took the kick, and instead of being 5 meters out from the line with a good kick, he only got Samoa within 18 meters of the line. On this occasion, they were fortunate because the next couple of phases of play actually led to a try for Samoa, and it was that man himself, Liliafano, that was there on the spot to score the try. So there you go, must have been karma, he was paying me back. So Samoa went over with a couple of minutes to go and brought some respectability to the scoreboard, but it also gave Samoa a chance to get back to win this game in the last minute or so. It was 28-22 going into that last minute, and the whole crowd in the Toulouse stadium were on the edge of their seat waiting to see what happened. But as far as I'm concerned, the right outcome of this game, Japan survived that last couple of minutes. They got the ball back in the turnover and then put the ball into touch. Yako Piper blew the whistle for full time, and Japan ended up winning this Pool D game in Toulouse. So in the end, it was 3 tries each to each team, 3 conversions each, but 3 penalties to Japan and 1 to Samoa that made the difference in this particular game. But let me tell you, this is what the difference is with these teams, and I think from a Japan perspective, I really like the way they go about their rugby. They play very good rugby. However, their defence is a bit brittle, and when they have a lead like they did in this game, they're always susceptible to their opposition coming back to them. And it's unfortunate, because when you're out 28 points to 5 or 7 or 8, you should be able to stay away from your opposition for the rest of the game by managing the game. But this Japanese team are not able to do that. They have to expend so much energy in the first half in keeping their opposition at bay. And as I said, they made over 90 tackles in that first half. And it started to come back to show in the second half. Even with the number of players they have coming in off the bench these days, they weren't able to keep the pedal on the metal to keep Samoa out. But the frustrating thing for me in this game was Samoa's ability to be able to manage the game. You've got a huge group of forwards that are very talented and capable of winning ball at set piece of play. You've got a couple of really good outside backs that should be running the ball, but you have a number 10 that's not able to manage the game effectively. And I'm sure if you put a Johnny Sexton or a Jalabert into this Samoa team to manage that back line, they'd be a completely different team. And they'd be on the front foot all the time, and they'd be giving a lot of teams a very hard time. But that's not what they've got. They've gone with Christian Liliafano. That's their selection choice, and that's what they get as a result of this particular game. So yeah, I'm disappointed in Samoa. I thought they could perform a lot better at this year's Rugby World Cup. There's no excuses at this level. And hats off to Japan. They played a very, very good game today. Michael Lech, I think, was one of the outstanding players for Japan. Of course, he's played in 2 previous World Cups for Japan, captaining the team. And today he scored 2 brilliant tries, but outside of that, he was fantastic. He had 6 carries, 16 tackles, and he was in all aspects of play for Japan. A really, really good effort from him. Matsuda did everything that you'd expect from your goal kicker and from your fly half. He managed the game well. He kicked well in open play, and he got all the points from the boot when Japan were asking him to do so, except for one miss in this particular game. So great game from Matsuda. I think their backline, Lemeki at fullback, played very, very well. We saw him a couple of times breaking through the Samoan defence, almost scoring a couple of tries as a result of that. And he hasn't played international rugby for 18 months, so he's done a very, very good job to come into this Rugby World Cup game today and play at the standard that he did. Number 8 for Japan, Himino, is the captain and played a fantastic game. You can see the experience he's getting as he continues his journey in this team. He was big around all the field and breakdowns as well. And Derns, when he came on as a lock, was very, very good. Labashani, of course, scored the try, but he was big as well. And Japan forwards did very, very well considering they're up against this huge Samoan outfit today. So it's been a case of what could have been for Samoa in this year's Rugby World Cup. Tell me what you think. Are you as frustrated with the Samoan team as I am? I think they should be at the level that Fiji's at, but they're not. And they need to get back to the drawing board and working out some of their game management decision-making processes and making sure they've got the right players in the right positions. For Japan, now it's going to be really interesting. They're going to play probably Argentina in a do-or-die knockout game in a couple of weeks' time, and we're all going to be looking forward to that. I think it's in a week's time, actually. So that's going to be an absolute cracker, and of course the cherry blossoms always keep us on the edge of our seats in the Rugby World Cup, so I can't wait for them to turn up again. But a good game today. They had to go out there and win it. They did that, so it's job done for Jamie Joseph and his crew, and they'll be now having a little bit of time to regroup and get ready for that massive game against Argentina, which is probably going to be the decider in Pool D. 28 points to 22 in Toulouse between Japan and Samoa in favour of Japan. I think the scoreboard probably flatters Samoa a little bit in this game, but I'd love to hear your comments. Okay, well that's it for me. We're just about to enter another huge weekend of rugby here at the Rugby World Cup. Tomorrow's Friday. We've got the big clash between Italy and the New Zealand All Blacks in Pool A, and then we head into a series of games over the weekend.